Welcome to another Fantasy Goodfellas video where we talk about the top 24 quarterback rankings for week 6. You ready?
The Fantasy Goodfellas.
Rolling on the field.
The Fantasy Goodfellas.
All right, before we get started, I want to remind everybody that this is where it gets interesting, right? You got some players on bye, so you're going to have to pay attention to the lineups. And then otherwise, you got some quarterbacks trending upwards and some quarterbacks trending downwards. So it's going to be interesting, the moves that you make for your lineups. But I just want to get started with this week's quarterback rankings. And we just hope that this video helps you decipher if your quarterback's trending either way. But let's get started. At number 1, we have Patrick Mahomes versus the Denver Broncos. You know, this is going to be an interesting matchup, right? So you got Denver Broncos, the worst defense, and you got Patrick Mahomes. So he's not going to have to do that much. So surprisingly, I don't think that Patrick Mahomes is going to be a top-tier quarterback. I think he's going to depend on the running game. So I like the running backs for this week for Kansas City. At number 2, you got Josh Allen versus the New York Giants. And, you know, the Dolphins lit up the New York Giants, and the Buffalo Bills worked the Miami Dolphins. So Josh Allen should have a decent game. And there's no reason why he can't be the top 3 quarterbacks in this week. At number 3, you got Jalen Hurts at the New York Jets. And, you know, the thing about the New York Jets is that defense opportunistic, and they could kind of grab a couple interceptions. But, man, Jalen Hurts and that whole offense, boy, there's a lot of weapons in there. And Jalen Hurts is looking like an MVP this year. So I like the matchup, and Jalen Hurts should do fairly well. Number 4, Lamar Jackson at the Tennessee Titans. And again, Lamar Jackson, this is what it looks like. So to be a 20th ranked quarterback, you get 236 passing yards and 45 rushing yards. No TDs, which is surprising, and still be in the top 24. But for us, really, these stats are really only the top 16, unless you're in a league that starts 2 quarterbacks. Doesn't happen too often, but Lamar Jackson needs to score in order to kind of remain a top 4 quarterback. I just don't expect it to happen this week. At number 5, Tua Tagovailoa versus the Carolina Panthers. Now, Tua is just playing unbelievable. I don't think he's playing like an MVP, but he's playing great, and he's doing. It doesn't need to do that much, which is shocking, because you got 2 stellar running backs. This week might be a little bit different because Devon Achane isn't. I hope I say his name right. Isn't expected to play, so he's injured. So that's going to affect that. Mostert should have a better game. But I think Tua is going to have to pass more, and I think I like their chances this week. I think 5 is good for Tua. At number 6, Justin Herbert versus the Dallas Cowboys. Now, Justin Herbert, is not doing what you would expect him to do. He can have some good weeks, but you expect him to be much better. But this is what he did. He's pretty much a top 10 quarterback most of the time almost. So I expect him to be closer to that 10th spot more than that 6th spot. Number 7, Justin Fields versus the Minnesota Vikings. Now, with Justin Fields, he was your number 1. He was your number 1 quarterback in Week 5. And if I just want to look at his rankings over this, he's warmed up a little bit, right? He's getting better. The question is can he remain in the top 5? I doubt it. I expect him to be a little bit drop off, but he can get in the end zone, and that's what's going to help him. So if you got Justin Fields right now, you're rolling with him, and you don't care about these rankings, right? So you're going to roll with him. At number 8, Kirk Cousins at the Chicago Bears. Now, Justin Jefferson may not play. He might be banged up. Now, all of a sudden, what does that look like for that offense? It looks like you're going to have to depend on Hawkinson. And it looks like you're going to have to depend on your running game. So it's going to be tough when you don't have Justin Jefferson to take off and light it up. Expect Cousins to do well. He ain't going to be spectacular. At number 9, Joe Burrow versus the Seattle Seahawks. Now, that Cincinnati Bengals offense lit it up. Jamar Chase was the recipient of those 3 TD passes. He's going to have to spread it out a little bit more. But I like Joe Burrow. He seems to be warming up as the season progresses. At number 10, Anthony Richardson at the Jacksonville Jaguars. I don't like this ranking, and that part is questionable to me because you might pull him. Now, a couple weeks ago, he was the top. 2 weeks ago, I believe he was the third, or last week 4, he was the second ranked quarterback, but now I think there's like a little bit of quarterback controversy. I don't like what's going on there. I think Richardson's going to drop off a little bit more. At number 11, Trevor Lawrence versus the Indianapolis Colts. Now, with Travis Etienne being the number 1 running back in week 5, Trevor Lawrence, it's going to open things up for Trevor Lawrence. I think Trevor Lawrence is going to have just as good of a game. But again, my mind's always thinking a 16-team league. So if you're ranked 15, there might be some other quarterbacks that can do a little bit better than that. At number 12, you got Matthew Stafford versus the Arizona Cardinals. Again, you're going to start Stafford regardless, right? He's been doing well. You got Stafford. You're rolling with him. I do like the questions that come up in the comments, right? Should I start this quarterback over that quarterback? Sometimes I'm in a 2-quarterback league, and that's where it kind of gets interesting for some of these rankings. But again, I always look at it. If you got Matthew Stafford and you're going against the Arizona Cardinals, you're starting him. At number 13, Deshaun Watson versus the San Francisco 49ers. Now, this is going to be an interesting matchup, right? You got San Francisco's defense is on a roll. Now you got Deshaun Watson, who's kind of warming up, kind of, banged up. It's going to be tough. So I think, again, I don't expect Deshaun Watson to have a breakout game just because they're going against San Francisco. At number 14, Dak Prescott at the Los Angeles Chargers. Now, this, I've already said it in another video, his confidence has to be wavering a little bit. You got 3 interceptions, and you're going against the Los Angeles, what was that here? Going against the Los Angeles Chargers. I expect his confidence to be a little bit questionable. At number 15, Geno Smith at the Cincinnati Bengals. I think this is going to be a shootout game. I think I expect big things for Geno this week. I think you're going to have probably his best game of the season so far, and that would mean he would have to break the top 7 to go with what my prediction states right there. But at number 16, Russell Wilson at the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, this is going to be an interesting thing. I think his stats are only because they're constantly playing catch-up. They're not winning games, and their defense sucks. So a lot of his stats are probably near the end of the game, maybe when they're pulling players. So if that continues, he's going to be padding his stats just because that defense sucks. But it's Russell Wilson. He is getting some fantasy points this season. At number 17, Jared Goff at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Again, that Detroit Lions, they have a lot of weapons. Goff is playing really well. Those Lions are for real. And you really kind of want to see what he does. Here, he's had 3 games over 240 passing yards. Points-wise, he's got 3 games over 35 points. He's playing really well. Again, if you got Goff, you're going to have to start him regardless of what these predictions say. Number 18, you got Jimmy Garoppolo versus the New England Patriots. And the Patriots suck. I like saying it for all those northern folks up there in the Northeast. The Patriots suck. And Garoppolo could have a better week than he had in week 5, which he was the 19th best quarterback. And it looks like Garoppolo's kind of warming up a little bit. So I like what they got going on there. And they're going against New England, but surprisingly, it's not that good. At number 19, Baker Mayfield versus the Detroit Lions. Mayfield doesn't have to do too much when he does play. I just think that they're winning. They're doing fairly well. And look, he has three passing TDs. Baker Mayfield might have found a long-term home in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and he's just returning to a good quarterback. The question is, do you start him? I don't think anybody looks at Baker Mayfield and think that that's my quarterback to start. And now I think you got to start considering him. Number 20, C.J. Stroud versus the New Orleans Saints. Now, C.J.'s been playing really good all season. I think you can count on him. There was just a little regression with Nico Collins, but if you look at his receiving core, the best Tank Dell. Now, Tank Dell's injured. He's going to be out of the lineup, and you got Nico Collins. So it might be a tough game for C.J. Stroud. But, if you're riding with them, they won you some games, sometimes you have to keep riding them. At 21, Sam Howell at the Atlanta Falcons. Now, I like Sam Howell. I think this is the quarterback that if you picked up probably on waiver wires, he's winning you some games. So you're lucky to have him. But look at this. Look at these stats. I want to move to the points. Look at these fantasy points. 4 out of 5 games, over 30 fantasy points in standard league. That's amazing. That's winning you some games. That's the best waiver wire pickup for quarterbacks all season. At number 22, Daniel Jones at the Buffalo Bills. Now, Daniel Jones has a neck injury, and that's going to be questionable. If you got a little neck injury, you can't look left, you can't look right, you can't look down the field. That's going to affect them. They're going to have to depend on the run. I like the rushers in this game more than I do the quarterback. And they're going against Buffalo, whose defense proves that they're pretty tough. At number 23, Brock Purdy at the Cleveland Browns. Again, I don't know why Brock Purdy's so low on the rankings. He's a good quarterback. He's showing that he could do a lot. He's smooth in the pocket. He's got a lot of weapons. I think he can be in the top 10 for sure. I don't understand these rankings. And if you got Brock Purdy at this point, I would put him in the starting lineup. It really depends on who else you have. And maybe Brock Purdy's your second quarterback. He might have to move into your first string quarterback. And then at 24, Joshua Dobbs at the Los Angeles Rams. Dobbs is having a surprising season. I got to update this. He's having a surprising season, doing really well. I think he found his home there. And the question is what's he look like all season? Top 8, 16, top 5. I think that's where you got to look at it. But I think he can do much better than 24. I'll put him at 16. So this is a terrible ranking for him just because he's playing really well. And that, my folks, is the top 24 quarterback rankings for week 6. And again, quarterbacks is always questionable. So I love the questions in the comment section. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And good luck in your fantasy football week 6.
The Fantasy Goodfellas.
Rolling on the field.
The Fantasy Goodfellas.